Hi, my name's Sharon Fraser. I'm 51 and I was born in London of Jamaican immigrant parents. So my parents left Jamaica in the 50s after the Second World War, and because Jamaica was then part of the Commonwealth, they went to England on invitation and helped rebuild the broken infrastructure. I first came to Singapore in 2009. My husband had been asked to come to NUS as a research professor and a senior scientist to work in their business school. And we had 2 teenage children. We had done a couple of recce visits and we thought this would be a nice place to live. And so off we trundled. So I've been in Singapore now 6 years. When I first came, I was a bit overwhelmed with the weather. I thought there was no oxygen and it was really difficult. I thought actually people shouldn't live here. It should be a place for lizards only. I was a little bit disturbed that I would ever come to terms and manage the weather, but I did. In terms of the people, it reminded me of England when I was a small child. So it was orderly. There was a lot of respect and generosity from the people to the people. There's respect for the elderly, they're revered, and your teachers. And some of this sadly has gone out of the culture of Europe life. And so it was nice and it felt safe to be in Singapore to raise our children through their teenage years in a country where people still think how their actions can affect the lives of others. I am a theatre practitioner, so I work as an actor, a director, a teacher, and I am black. And initially I thought perhaps there wouldn't be so much place for me in the arts here. I saw mainly Asian faces, but I went to see a lot of theatre, and I like the works of the Necessary Stage, and I reached out to them and they actually embraced me. And I spent some time interning under Alvin Tan, who has become a friend, and I feel part of the Alvin Tan stable, as it were. I've been involved in making works with him. I've grown as an artist under him and grown as a person under Alvin Tan. With regards to other memories, I've had mainly positive memories, and even when I've had some awkward, strange memories, they still have left a positive effect on me. I remember once driving to meet some friends to go and have Toy Tree porridge in Amoy Street, and I had a flat tire, and I was parked outside a herbal store, one of these Yu Yang Sang stores or whatever, I can't remember, and an Asian man, a Chinese-looking man, came over and he knocked on the passenger window as I was scrambling around trying to ring my husband to find out who would help me to fix this car. I wound down my window and he asked, "You've got a flat? You need help, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "You got spare?" And I said, "Yeah, I got." And so I was like, wow, this is great. This guy's going to help me because I have no idea how to change a tire. And I was taking off my seatbelt, and then he asked me, "Hey, you local?" And I was really perplexed. And I was like, "Sorry, you local?" And I really didn't understand what's this got to do with the tire. So I was still really confused. So I was like, "Sorry, you local?" And I was like, oh, sorry, I understand. Yeah, No, I'm British, huh? I live here 6 years already, something like that, I said. And he walked away. He just walked off, and I was kind of like speechless. I watched him walk off without looking back. He just walked off. And I was speechless. I couldn't stop laughing, and I thought, oh my God, did he really walk off because he recognized I wasn't local? But it's a bittersweet moment, because actually what it left with me was, for that moment, I'd actually blended. For him, I initially, on first sight, I was a local, and he wanted to help a local. But no, I was a foreigner, and he wasn't up for that. So that was a kind of like bittersweet memory. One of my positive memories are I ruptured my Achilles tendon a couple years back in a rehearsal situation, and I remember being at home. It was a Sunday. My helper was day off, and I wanted her to have her days off, so I could hobble around. But it was early days post-surgery, so it was quite difficult and a bit of pain. And I got visitors from a Peranakan, Albintan, a French lady, a friend, and a Chinese Singaporean. They brought me lunch, and I couldn't go downstairs, so we had this wonderful picnic on my bed, and it was just special. In that one room we had 4 different nationalities and cultures all come together, helping each other, sharing stories over food. And it was a beautiful moment for me of how Singaporeans can be so embracing, so generous. I also saw that again when Lee Kuan Yew passed away. I went with my helper, who was very keen to go and pay her respects to see Lee Kuan Yew lying in state. And we queued for about 5.5, 6 hours, and we shuffled around with amazing logistics. And in that crowd, you wanted for nothing. It was really hot, we were voluminous, we were a lot of people, but nobody was injured. Everybody was sharing, water was being shared, food was being shared. If there was somebody that was feeling slightly unwell and overwhelmed with the heat and the waiting, immediately help would be called, and a team of paramedics were easily facilitated to get to that person to offer assistance. And I just felt totally embraced, and also observing how this culture, when it is wounded, when it is in mourning, when it is in sadness, how they all pull together, every ethnicity just pull together to share their grief, but to support each other in sharing that grief. And that was a really special time for me, being part of Singapore and observing Singaporeans. How do I balance being a nomad? I suppose part of that balance is always making roots in where I am, which means I try not to set up a small little island of Britishness and just infuse and go into a culture, hook, line and sinker. So I try to learn the local patois or the language. I have a great interest in food and people, so I'm very interested in cultures, and I do reach out, and I think you have to do that sometimes. You can't always expect that people just open their arms and say, come. You also have to show an interest, a genuine interest in being in a place and experiencing a place. And so for me, wherever I go, I try to reach out through my art, through church, through any means necessary, really, into the local place where I am, and put down roots and put down networks that help me stay happy in a nomadic lifestyle, and also having a really good internet so that I can keep in contact with friends and family that are not so near. What is Singapore lacking in a society? What do I know? Generally, I think it's one of the most beautiful places that I've ever lived, not just aesthetically, but in terms of the people, in terms of the diversity of cultures, in terms of how the society functions. It's quite beautiful. And yes, there are some issues to do with freedom of speech, to do with censorship. Is it stopping from Singapore growing? Not really. Singapore is thriving, and it is taking its own time to reach the ideal for everyone, and I think it will. I think since I've been here the past 6 years, I've seen the art landscape grow. I've seen boundaries pushed, sometimes resisted, but sometimes opened. I see there is dialogue, that people are willing to listen if you can present your case well. And yes, there are some ugly moments, but there's still always dialogue, and there's still always a will to perhaps listen and perhaps change perspectives. And what do I hope to see for Singapore? I just hope it continues to develop in a positive direction. I hope that the way gay rights are moving, that it continues in a positive direction. I hope that tolerance for other ideas of how things should be, that this dialogue continues to be open. I sincerely hope that they do sort out the case of young Amos Yee, that he will be freed and that he will be embraced as a very special individual who has a different way of expressing himself, but generally is somebody who is quite special. I'm quite hopeful for Singapore. I am very grateful and appreciative to have spent 6 years here, and I'm very positive about the future for Singapore and that I am part of that future. Thank you.